Welcome to the Be on the Move podcast, hosted by Andrew Roncheto. Through thoughtful conversations, we explore how innovation fuels growth for humanity, uncovering the stories and ideas that shape lasting impact. And now your host, Andrew Roncheto.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to Be on the Move. This is that podcast, if you haven't been listening to us yet, where we're looking to unlock human potential, amplify purpose, and really just explore what it means for us to grow. Today we're going to be diving into this whole thing about communication and the power of it in helping not only shape our relationships, not only fuel our own personal transformation. You'll need to think about that for a second, the power of communications in that context, but ultimately really just help us define success for ourselves. And so I'm joined by Mario. He's a communications and relationships researcher. He's an author. He's a speaker. I mean, he's got experience that spans from his early days in Cairo all the way up through exploration in Asia till he's landed here in the US. So I'm really appreciated to his dedication in life to really just drive in and understanding this nuance of human connection. And so, Mario, welcome to the show today. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. I am unbelievably stoked to be here right now. I love it.
I appreciate that completely. The thing here is, and since you have been able to experience so much of the world and all these diverse cultural experiences, how for you has it really just shaped the way you look at personal communication internally, externally to ourselves? I'm curious just to lay it down there on the ground there like that.
Yeah. I love that you bring this up. So, it's most of us are familiar with the term interpersonal communication, which is like 101, what we're having right now, even though it's also digital communication because we're using,
For
uh,
sure.
yeah. But also, you brought up a very important less known type of communication that is honestly more than 70% of my research is intrapersonal communication. So the first one I mentioned, interpersonal communication, interpersonal, intrapersonal, INTRA. To make it simple, it's similar to internet, that all the general internet, and intranet. Intranet is the network for the company or organization itself. Exactly. Intrapersonal communication is how we converse, communicate, and connect with ourselves. And this is really crucial part of our existence, because this is the bedrock that every single communication is being built on, and every relationship is built on the relationship we have with ourselves. So, absolutely, it's completely life altering when we become aware of that inner voice and harness it and maybe even train it intentionally to actually serve us well. Because some of us have this intrapersonal dialogue, which is it's not healthy, it's negative, it's not even actually ours. It was given to us from really young age, and we practice it unconsciously and subconsciously, that it becomes the quote unquote norm. But it's really not. FYI, I think you agree with me on this, Andrew. Norm is illusion. Such a thing does not exist. So
What,
to be
what would you
aware,
say though about balance or harmony? Like if I tweaked it a little bit, like
please. Yeah, absolutely. Balance, harmony. It will be like if we become. This can be really interesting. If we become the master of our inner voice, we get to train it. If our inner voice becomes our master, it will drag you everywhere, no matter what you think, no matter how you feel. That's where it will take you. Yet, intentionally and mindfully pausing and challenging that inner voice, sometimes, if it's not healthy for us, that takes actually energy. Yet the reward pays dividend every single day for the rest of our lives when we become conscious and train the voice intentionally.
so are you like talking about as a part of that training just like straight up meditation, or are you seeing it like a little bit differently? Because like you were saying, it's like 70% of your research. So I'm sure you have found some fascinating things that probably we don't always hear. It's just go meditate some more and you'll be good. Or, I know I keep coming back to that one because I hear it all the time, but I'm curious, like I'm sure there's some other things that could be very meaningful and practical steps for folks.
Yeah. It's true. Meditation is the best remedy and medication for just like centering ourselves. Um, so just really quick background, I actually traveled Asia for 5 years, and I spent a year and a half in India researching yoga and meditation. And currently I'm taking a course to be a yoga instructor after practicing yoga for almost like 15 years. So why am I telling all this? Just to give you an idea that when I talk about meditation, we need to be crystal clear about something. This is very important. Often, when we hear the word meditation, we think like Buddha, like you sit your feet like in a lotus pose and sit there and you
Yep.
quiet, calm. You're not attached to your feelings. And like 5 minutes into meditation, you start hovering over the ground. No, it's not like that. It's not like that. Okay. So we need to distinguish the difference between static meditation and dynamic meditation. Um, what I'm having with you right now, for me, it's actually dynamic meditation. Until I said this right now, I did not think about it, but I'm not thinking about what I'm going to have for dinner. I'm not thinking what I did yesterday. I'm not thinking about the following podcast after this. No, I am here and now with Andrew and just going back and forth, exchanging thoughts. That is the dynamic meditation. The most popular type of meditation is static meditation, where we just like sit and quiet and try not to move and just breathe intentionally and try not to be too attached to our thoughts and just observe them. And I love that you brought this up, Andrew, because sometimes that's what we need to do with our inner voice. Just observe it and watch it, notice it, and not get too engaged. We can think of this inner voice and thoughts like a bubble that's like passing over us, one bubble after the other, one thought after the other. If I poke this bubble, I go inside it. So when we become aware of our inner voice, we get to choose whether this is something I want to take on or not. And that takes awareness and energy. Don't get me wrong. So hence taking breaks really important to be aware of this inner voice and articulate it mindfully. Actually, it's a life altering experience overnight. We become aware of it. And I have to tell you, I realized from my research that more than 35% of people not aware of their inner voice. They are not aware of it. And some other percentage, the ones who think they have inner voice, they think it's either a crazy thing to have, or two, I don't know what to do with this voice. It's driving me to go anywhere, to do anything. I feel like I'm not in control. And that's where the real works begins.
I'm just going to say this. I already have learned something here. This whole idea of static meditation and dynamic meditation. And I guess that's partly why you talk about yoga, but even just a conversation, like how often do we say, go grab a coffee with people and just like decompress? And I have never heard anybody tell me that's a form of meditation. And I appreciate the way you bring that across, because I think to your point, we're like, okay, I got to carve out 15 minutes of my day to do something like this, or make it very intentional. And I'm not saying don't do that, but I think there's an appreciation in what you're saying for me personally, for somebody who is just go, go, go every moment of the day. It feels like that stepping away for that coffee or that 5 minutes just to talk with somebody can also be a form of meditation. And I love that, because I think that brings a lot more meaning to the whole concept of what meditation means, or context of what it means.
I really like that you bring this up, and I'm getting a piggyback on this and say something really important to put out there. One of my favorite definitions of all time when it comes to meditation, whether static or dynamic, meditation, I see it as intentionally and mindfully cultivating the mind. Uh, just really quick, I'm sure you're familiar with the word mantra, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so mantra, obviously, we use it in English. It's mantra is actually a Sanskrit two words. It's not just one word. Mantra. So you know this, right? Okay, good,
Yep,
good.
I'm smiling.
Yeah, yeah. So man is literally means mind, and tra it means expansion or technique. So basically, the mantras that we say, it literally creates our mind. Hence, many religions and cultures, they have like repeated mantras, something positive, something inspiring, something humbling, empowering, because how that's how we train and expand our mind. So meditation is cultivating the mind intentionally. That sounds so powerful. Every time I say this, I love it. Yes. It's like the mind cultivating itself.
Well, and it goes beyond just like the two figures sitting on our shoulders, so to
Oh,
say,
yes.
with bubbles going across, like you were
Yeah.
talking about. I gotta imagine, like, because you a lot of your research has been around communications,
Mhm.
is but you've also, it sounded like, really dived into, maybe it's tangential, but you can correct me on that. But the tangential aspect of meditation. So I'm kind of curious in here is like, how have you found um, this aspect of meditation really helping us be more effective communicators, whether it's not just for ourselves personally. And I think we've been talking about some of that, like try to just push it out somewhat, but how to be more effective communicators, whether it's for ourselves in our personal lives or even our professional settings.
How to be an effective communicator? Uh, that is a fantastic question. And I am really glad that our podcast is about 3 hours so we can talk about that.
Well, I think like maybe there's an element to the meditation because you're talking about like bringing that calm and inner peace to it. And then I feel like there's an aspect that says because you're calm and peaceful, you're not going to blow up on the next person that you talk to.
Mm.
But I'm sure there's other elements you've seen in that really help contribute to a positive interaction with those in our lives.
Yes. So, as part of my research, I discovered that many college graduate who have their own degree in whatever field they choose, and they have not taken one communication class. And I do remember the first communication class I took many, many, many years ago, almost 20 years ago, really changed my life. The very first class, I'm like, this is it for me. It's like when you hear people when they say once you find your it, there's no turning back. That's exactly what it feels like. I wonder for so long, what does that mean? Once it happens to you, it's about experiencing it. Now, the reason why I bring this up because when I do my when I do my workshop, I do workshop that's called interactive communication experience. And let's say I have a group of 40 or 50 people, hypothetically. And oftentimes I ask people, each single person, to tell me their own definition of the word communication. And if I have 50 people, I get 50 different definitions.
Two
And
hours
none,
later.
say again?
2 hours later, but
Well, yes, we do it pretty quick. Yeah. The idea is none of them is wrong. Every single definition is correct. It's just how we see communication. So, in a humble way, and also an honorable way, for my research, it's a privilege of every researcher that you get to a point based on your experience, the depth of your understanding. You get to coin your own definitions for specific topics. I like he's smiling at this. You like that idea? Yeah, it's a privilege. You're basically creating knowledge. So, wow, that's big to say. Um, so the way I see communication, allow me to share my own coin definition with you, does not
go
exist
for it.
anywhere else on the planet except with me here and you here.
And our
So,
listeners, for sure.
and listeners, I hope. So I see communication as a non-stop, voluntary, and involuntary process of exchanging information, knowledge, energy, and even on the quantum level, vibration. I'm going to repeat this again. It is, I love how you're like your brain processing
I'm
left
trying to like
hemisphere,
process.
right hemisphere. I like that. So it is a nonstop, voluntary and involuntary process of exchanging information, knowledge, energy, and also vibration. What I'm trying to say here, simply put, let's put the academic definition on the side. What I'm trying to say here is because someone might be listening, like, what did he just say? Can we just like rewind?
Are we going quantum now?
So basically, what I'm saying is our existence is actually communication. Communication is like air, it's everywhere. Whether you want to communicate or not, it's actually not an option. You're always communicating. Now, whether you want to express your thoughts or not, that's a different story. But our existence is communication. For the last like a minute, I'm talking about the definition of communication. And Andrew, you're just listening to me and nodding your head and thinking, going from right side to left side in your mind, and you're communicating your existence without saying one word.
This is true.
How powerful communication is. And also, when we are alone by ourselves, we're also communicating with ourselves. Oh, what am I going to have my when am I going to have for lunch or dinner? It's like, oh, I did not brush my teeth yesterday. What about this next podcast? Oh, I think I'm thirsty now. It's always happening all the time. So
That internal voice. Well, and you and I were talking about this at the beginning before we got started. And now it totally connects with me. But we've been talking about what does it mean to live out your purpose or your why in life. And I had made the comment of the way I see it, and I'm not going to say that I'm the expert or the researcher, but I'm still making a definition here. But that whole essence of like what you were describing, which is the way we show up for ourselves and the way we show up for others. And so it's fascinating to see that overlap of I'm talking about, your why in life and your purpose in life and the things that get you out in the morning. And you're like, and communication's all 100% wrapped up in that. Like you were just describing a moment ago, it's just throughout every wavelength of life. I love that. And I have never really thought about it that way before. I
um,
got it. Oh yeah, sorry. Go for
no,
it.
no, no, go ahead. Please continue. I apologize.
No, like, so because of that, I think there's a topic that comes up a lot. This whole idea of communication, nonverbal, verbal in our lives. We see
Mhm.
it with our relationships with our significant others or our friends, our family. Um, but then there's this element that I think some people struggle a lot with is how to read it. Maybe and this is maybe where emotional intelligence comes in a little bit, because I feel like there's, as much as now there's just like you said, these vibrations, these visual cues, auditory cues, whatever it might be, radiating off of other people. And there was a movie, I forget what it was called, but it was like all the thoughts of men were just like spewing out of their minds, whether they wanted it to or not. So a whole nother dimension of it. But because there's all this, I'll say, data out there, like you and I interacting with each other, it brings up this whole topic, I think, from an emotional intelligence perspective of how, if I'm looking to interact with somebody, how I react to that. And so I'm kind of curious, like, do you see one, that overlap or that extension into emotional intelligence? But then also, do you see it as a result of that, a way of leveraging communications and multiple different facets, nonverbal and verbal, to really build stronger relationships with others?
Wow.
I know I packed a lot. Sorry, this is
I'm trying to
3 hour podcast. Like I packed a lot into there. We could go in a lot of different directions, but it got me moving.
I love well, you have a very active mind, and I love it. Um,
It's
one
that
of
voice.
say again.
It's that voice we've been talking about to stop
Yeah.
popping the bubbles.
One of the very first things that you touched on was purpose. Some people see it as passion, and in simple language is like, why am I here? Why do I even exist? And this is coming up for me now because it reminds me of my own experience just about 10 years ago. I kid you not. At this point, 10 years ago, so as you know, originally I was born and raised in Egypt, and I came to the US in the year 2000 to simply study English. Um, so 10 years ago, 2015, I was at this space in my life where it was like early midlife crisis. Like I spent half of my life in Egypt, half of my life in the US. My English is much better than my Egyptian Arabic. In fact, when I publish my books, I hire someone to translate them in Arabic because I cannot translate what I know in Arabic. It's kind of humorous. So anyway, go back to like 10 years ago. I was at this spot where I was thinking to myself, am I Egyptian? Am I American? By this time, I've held more than 12 different jobs and positions. I served in the military, three different corporations. I had my own business trading stock market and options, and have my Lexus and living also this fancy life. My pocket was full, but my heart did not feel full. And that's where the pause began for me. Like all this, I have all this, I'm doing all this, and I still feel like something is missing. So around my birthday, I decided to just take 1 week off for myself, not meet anyone, not leaving the house, just eat, sleep, reflect on my past, what I've been through. And this 1 week turned into 3 months. I spent over 3 months by myself, researching myself, reflecting on my upbringing, my parents, my relatives, my family. And I came across something really cool. We all familiar with the word karma, right? Karma Sanskrit literally means action. That's all that means. Okay. People think like it's a voodoo stuff, karma. No, it just means action. Whatever action we have, it has ripple effect. That's what it means. Another word similar to karma is the word dharma. Dharma is a Sanskrit word and it means duty. I love this word. duty, duty. What is your duty in life? And when I came across that, as uh, as I'm doing my research, I realized that our dharma or duty or purpose, it comes up in two ways. Either it has been imposed on us, like that's what you're gonna be doing, and you say, okay, no problem, or the privilege of choosing your own dharma, your own purpose. So this was very important for me because it intrigued me to ask to for me to ask my interviewees, why do you do what you do in life in terms of job, career, relationships, whatever you do? Why? And after interviewing hundreds of people, I was able to come up with 4 categories why people do what they do. FYI, I'm not sitting down talking to you. I'm standing because I get super excited. I cannot sit down and talk. That's why I love to be on stage, pacing back and forth. So much energy. I'm grateful. 4 reasons why people do what they do. Number one, in terms of like career and job, why people do what they do simply to put food on the table, to pay the rent, to take care of the mortgage, to take care of the kids, maybe. Um, Reason number two, basically, people are following their parents' steps. My mom was a lawyer. I became a lawyer. My dad is a businessman, so I took over the business. It's just simply like that, just going with the flow. It's going to get funnier, then it's going to get serious. The third type is, why do you do what you do? And some of the responses I get, like, what are you talking about? So awareness. Some people are not even aware what they're doing, what's the purpose. They're just going with the flow a little too much. Okay, not being as conscious. And the fourth category, that what changed my life. The fourth category are the ones who love what they do so much. They don't care about the money. They don't care about the income. They don't care about the revenue. And these are the most content and financially stable people who do not care so much about the income. They love what they do. In fact, I'm going to mention one of the quotes from one of my interviewees. He really said that he loves what he does so much, he's willing to live on the streets doing what he does. He loves it so much. He said, I would live in a cardboard box doing what I'm doing. I just love it so much. And he was making over like 100 grand a year, just doing this. He just loves it so much. Obviously, he did not start that way.
Or I was going to say, probably not living in the cardboard box
Not
at that
a
point.
really fancy cardboard box, right?
Yep.
Um, so this category really changed my life. Why do I tell you that? Because honestly, I do really, and I do not believe much in life, Andrew, I tell you right now, but I do believe that once we become concrete about our duty, our purpose, we really become unstoppable. So when I learned this at the time, I wanted to find out what does that mean? So obviously, I've had so many jobs, and I was doing different things at the time. And I decided for myself, what is the most interesting aspect in my life right now that I can pursue and see what happens next? At the time was yoga and communication. They go hand in hand. Communication and yoga for me is like two sides to the same coin. All right. So I don't know if you know much about yoga, but the word yoga comes from yoga. In Sanskrit, it means union or bond. So all the
Okay.
hundreds or thousands of poses, the purpose of all these poses, so you can sit down and just breathe and your body is healthy enough where you do not move every few minutes or every few seconds. Because when we become still after some time, which is challenging for a lot of us, we actually start to receive information. Oh, it sounds voodoo, but it's true.
Agreed. And I've done some, and I feel like, to your point, just to add to it,
Yes,
is
please.
like, I feel from doing that, I can, for lack of better words, lean into a pose a little bit more, because
Yes.
there, and I think that that extends beyond just yoga, but that leaning into other moments in life as well, because I just kind of have that calm and that, rather than the intensity and therefore tenseness in the body that sometimes comes when you're first starting.
Yep, absolutely. With practice, it becomes much, much easier and it becomes more pleasure to have the experience. Well, here is the one crazy thing your friend Mario did 10 years ago when I learned about
Okay.
the fourth category and my passion for yoga and communication. They go hand in hand. Um, I give away everything I've had at the time except my backpack, and I took off to India because when people think about yoga and meditation, they think India. Well, the big shocker is when I went to India that not many Indian people practice yoga.
No.
In fact, I swear, during my trip, I actually had an Indian girlfriend. We met, and I was teaching her yoga. She said, "I cannot believe a foreigner coming from America to India, and he's teaching me yoga," because she didn't know anything about yoga. So this experience of me taking layers off by literally giving away everything I've had except my backpack, and I went off to India, and I had a return ticket to come back 3 months later, but I ended up by staying for 5 years in Asia. So universe is amazing. The point of this is I knew what I enjoyed, yoga and communication. I love them so much. And I was told oftentimes throughout my life, I'm so grateful. Every single position and job I've ever held, I got promoted so quickly because I put 110% whatever I do. But yet I was not sure what is the purpose of what I'm doing. And I was told at some point that I can sell anything because I'm really good with people, showing up authentically, as you mentioned. Most often, people do not really buy the product so much. They buy the personality of the person who's selling the product. So with this information, I'm like, I can sell anything. That sounds great. What can I do with this? And that's what I decided to do, to sell healthy, empowering information to people. Help them to sell themselves, to buy yourself. And instead of looking for someone to buy me, I buy myself. I invest in myself. This is very, very, very important. So during my trip in India, and I'll wrap up here, I'll give you the mic in a second, sorry. I
No,
had the
you're good.
privilege for about a year and a half to actually teach English to monks, Hindu monks, Buddhist monks,
Okay.
Thai monks. And this experience had a profound impact on me because monks, they really do meditate a lot. Yes, they have iPad, they have iPhone, they watch movies, but they do meditate a lot. Some of them even have girlfriends. Let's not get into that. Just human like us.
For a different episode.
Another episode. It was very humbling experience to because they like calling me teacher, and I go like, no, you are the teacher. They're like, no, you're the teacher. So realizing that in life we are both teachers and students for ourselves. And I'll pause here. You're like,
There
what
is
to
an
do with that?
intentional pause there. Like, no, I think that needs to soak in for folks, because I think it comes back to, the whole basis of just that self-awareness,
Mhm.
that can come out through our interactions. And I think, what you're hitting on there, and I've like now lost my complete train of thought, because I'm holding on to that part of like teacher and student, so to say, because I think it's so instrumental into the things we try to encourage people to do in life or do more of. And, for those leaders out there, those managers out there who are, supposed to have 100% of the answers 100% of the time, because that's the way that they've viewed the job, or the people before them have viewed the job. I think like what we're all trying, and I try to express this to them is, well, you could do more to build trust, to build the right culture within your team is to be vulnerable and say when you don't know. But and then take the action to say either I'm going to figure it out or I'm not going to figure out, rather than just letting it linger as if, something may or may not happen. I think that level of intentionality is what really drives the stronger bond, and it's communication, back to your whole emphasis here. But then it's the emotional intelligence element of it. So it's fascinating how all these things tie together. I know we're kind of coming up to the end here, and I know we said we'd do a 3-hour session.
Next time.
But we've been talking about a lot of different things here, and I hope people can appreciate like the connection we've made from communication, nonverbal to verbal, back to your why, your purpose, your duty, to also then just building those relationships. I'm curious if there's anything else you want to leave with folks, Mario, that or just how they can find out more about what you're doing, because it resonates for them what you're doing and how you're talking about it. Maybe it's your yoga classes coming up here at some point. Who knows? But how can they reach out to you?
There are two things I want to mention. Okay, to answer your question first, how people can reach out to me and find me, I am everywhere.
There you go, folks. Everywhere.
I'm everywhere. If you just go on like Google and type my first name Mario, last name Wissa, everything will come up. All my social media, my website. In the meantime, my website primarily website is mariowissa.com, MRIOWISSA.com. And there's so much to do on the website. There's a free assessment test that you can take for your communication style. You can also get free chapters of all my 3 books. All you have to do is just, input your information. The chapters get emailed to you within like 10 seconds. But above all that, frankly, from my heart, I have something really important to share and to leave our audience with this. So one of the biggest topics that are coming up recently on my podcast when I get interviewed is conflict resolution. And I understand why that is. And I think you're probably thinking right now, man, we should do a podcast about this. I'll leave you with like a quick nugget about this, because
I'm going to pass them off to the other podcast. We'll definitely link for sure in the show notes. But yeah, sorry, continue.
No worries. I just have a strong urge to share a method called 3-1-2 feedback method that helps to pretty much resolve any conflict. If we do it intentionally, mindfully, it takes practice. It may not work out the first time, yet it's very important to just even practice, even think about it. 3-1-2 is 3 points we bring up positive about the situation or the person. 1, we bring up one thing that needs to be improved or worked on. Let's pay attention to the ratio here. 2, create actionable steps. 2 actionable steps to take. So 3, something positive. 1, something that we need to work on. 2, what are the actionable steps to improve and make the situation better? That's what I would like to leave our listeners with.
I love that. And with that, folks, like I said, we're going to put this in the show notes. Thank you, Mario, so much for being here and for helping us understand just at I'm going to say a surface level, which is why everybody needs to go check out Mario's content here, but just how communication can help drive some clarity, can help drive confidence, and really drive intention. And I think that comes out in your last item there around the 3-1-2 feedback approach to conflict resolution. So I love it. I hope everybody took something away from this episode. I know I did. I threw that out there right in the middle of it, right at the beginning almost. But until the next time, take care of yourself, be intentional about it, and really just go after the things that are most important in your life. Mario, thank you so much. Everybody else, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Be on the Move. Don't forget to follow us, rate the show, and share with others. If you're ready to dive deeper, visit us at beyondplatform.com. Catch you next time.